afternoon, at least. It is Thursday and it is noon. So I guess this is Coffee with Ralph. Let me introduce myself. I am Ralph Gale. I've been in the financial services business now for, well, I tell people since dirt was a chemical, because that seems how long it's been. But Coffee with Ralph's been in existence. This is our 1 year anniversary. So this is a 53rd episode of Coffee with Ralph. And here the last, I guess, month, I've been focusing on this thing called long-term care, and not so much the insurance. Let's talk about funding it sometime in the future. But I've been talking about impact. How's it impacting you? What kind of memories are that's who we are, as our memories. And when we lose them, well, we lose who we are. We lose compassion. We lose a lot of things. Talked about responsibility. That was kind of our subject last week. So here's what I want you to remember. I want you to remember that coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute call with me. I'll talk about whatever subjects you want to bring to the table. It has to do with retirement. Now, I've had some pretty strange ones come up here recently, and got to tell you, really don't want those conversations. But there are so many times I hear caregivers, not my clients, because they're going to be the recipient of that care, the patient, but those that are giving the care use terms like I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed out, I hurt myself trying to lift my dad or my mom, and I just feel so isolated. None of these sound very positive or life-giving. They sound, and they are, life-draining. They just zap you. You can be overwhelmed with something for a short period of time, but when it's day in, day out, it gets pretty old, pretty tiring, pretty quick. I've seen this so many times in my career. But they used to say failure to plan is, well, a failure to plan for this is in fact its own plan. It's a plan to let someone else deal with it. Let me tell you, the other day I was at Burger King, or burger joint. I don't think it was Burger King, but one of those burger joints, getting something to eat that's going to clog my arteries and shorten my life. It was pretty tasty. And I bumped into this lady who was living exactly this situation. I didn't get her name, so I'll just call her Mary. And she was probably in her 50s. She was there with her elderly mom and her disabled son, both of which were pretty mobile, by the way. They get up and move around pretty easy. Well, she sat mom down at a table where she could keep an eye on her, and she got in line with her son. And she was in front of me. Well, her mom got up and started for the door. So she took her son, grabbed her mom, got her mom back to the table, and then got in line behind me. No, that's not how it works here. I moved her in front of me. And just as soon as she got in there goes mom again, straight to the door. Again, she got out of line and got mom back to the table. This time, I motioned her to get back in front of me. So there's 2 times, and she got right back in, and she was at the counter at this point. There goes mom again. She's taken off. This time I saw she had left her list or her order sitting on the counter. So I completed it for her. I ordered it up for her. And when she came back to the counter, I gave her the number for her order. I ordered and I waited. And when her number was called, I took it over and asked if I could join them. She must have thought I was from another planet or something. I got this look of disbelief from her. Like, you actually want to sit here and eat with us? She welcomed the company, and so I encouraged her to tell me her story. And man, what a story. Man, wow. I was overwhelmed hearing her story. But it started when her son was born. She was married, and he was severely disabled. They told her then that he probably would never be independent. That's maybe not even walk or talk. That's how disabled he was. Well, he was walking. He wasn't talking much, but he was walking. And as soon as she got home with her disabled child, shortly thereafter, her husband just abandoned them. He couldn't handle it, she said. So she moved back home so mom and dad could help her with him. He's now something in his 30s, I think. I didn't really ask the age, but you could tell she was in her 50s. She probably somewhere near 56 or 7, something like that. So he had to be in his 30s someplace. That arrangement, she said, worked until about 4 years ago when dad got sick and died. Shortly thereafter, mom was diagnosed with, well, you guessed it, Alzheimer's, early onset dementia. So she was forced to quit her job in order to take care of the 2 of them now. And just within the last year, mom started wandering. And since dad died, her son had become aggressive. So I guess dad kept him in check somehow. Well, he's reading picture books now. So you know for sure he's never going to be disabled or never be independent and be able to live on his own. I sat and listened to her tell me how her sister didn't even visit anymore, refuses to help with mom. She's thinking about installing key locks, deadbolts on the inside of the doors to the house so her mom can't get out. She's already taken the knobs off the stoves and hidden the knives. Hidden the knives? Well, you know, she's done a little research. We don't stay ourselves. I'll leave it there for now. Well, the list goes on. You know, but the topic last week was whose responsibility it. And I've sat here and I listened to her story. And I listened to her of accepting responsibility for this. But I also listened as she told me she was so overwhelmed, she had no idea what to do next. I heard the hurt in her voice as she looked back over her life and realized she'd given up any hope now of a social life and how this isolation made her feel. By the way, her mom's health, other than Alzheimer's, is in pretty good shape. So she's got a few years to go. And by the way, she's as big and strong as her daughter. And so Mary's concern is what happens if mom gets aggressive. She also said she knows her son's going to outlive her. Probably. She's probably right. So they need to plan. She really needs to plan this thing out. But unfortunately, she hasn't. Mary's in way over her head, and the isolation will only increase. It's only going to get worse. Mom gets worse. But isolation isn't good for either mom or her. Her mom needs a daily routine. If you go to a memory care unit, you know, I went to one years ago, and I had that nervous laugh when I walked into the memory care unit. When I saw that the iron didn't have a cord on it, the dryer didn't have a heat unit in it, the stove didn't light. And I asked just out of curiosity, you know, my goodness, you know, there was 2 women in the laundry area arguing with each other on how to fold sheets. Okay. And the woman that gave me the tour said they do this every day. But you see, it's a daily routine. And so it keeps her mind somewhat active. You know, I gave her these suggestions along with some services that would be helpful to her. You know, I'm sure I'm going to be hearing from her again. Well, let me take this in a little different direction for a minute or two. I told her what she needed right now was an exit plan. A plan for when things got too much for her. And I suggested she was close in both cases to needing it now. Oh, she was sure she'd be fine and that the problems the problem with not having a plan to start with, that's the problem. She has no plan. She has nowhere to go. She has no idea what to do next. If you're listening and you're hearing what I'm saying, someday we're going to need that care. And our caregivers need to know what we really want. No parent wants to be a burden, let alone a threat to their children. But with Alzheimer's and dementia, you stop being you. That's a pretty harsh thing for say. I mean, we stay ourselves for a while, but like I told you before, without memories, compassion's gone. The ability to restrain ourselves gets a little bit less each time. You stop being you, and eventually you aren't even recognized as your prior self. So you have to have a plan. And in that plan, you have to have an escape clause for your caregivers. They have to be able to take the next steps without guilt or remorse, knowing it's what you wanted and what you need. This has been Coffee with Ralph. It's probably not my normal 15-minute call today, but I don't know. I can continue on this discussion. My mind keeps going back to Mary, and I feel for her. But what I feel for most is the fact that there was an opportunity for her and her parents to plan for this. And maybe they didn't have anybody that was willing to talk to them about it. Maybe they didn't have anybody qualified to talk to them about it. I'm both willing and qualified. Remember, coffeewithralph.com is a free 15-minute call with me. I'm not the know all, say all, do all, but I do have access to all those answers as well. Again, coffeewithralph.com. Please start that conversation. And until next week, I wish you a blessed